Hello, and welcome to Sleepy Story Time, a quiet place for gentle stories, a place where the day slowly fades and the night becomes calm. Before we begin, take a slow breath. Let your shoulders relax. Let your thoughts settle. Tonight's story is called The Rose of the Silent Chateau. It is a quiet tale about a forgotten house, a lonely master, and a simple act of kindness that changed everything. Our story begins in the countryside, far from cities, far from busy roads. Beyond the last road of the village, there stands a very old house, a chateau, large, silent, hidden behind tall iron gates. Long ago, the gardens around the house were beautiful. Stone paths curved between flowers and trees. Fountains sang softly in the sunlight. But time changes many things. Now, vines cover the statues, thorns grow across the paths, the fountains are quiet, and the windows of the chateau watch the empty fields. The villagers rarely walk near that place. Children are told to stay away, because no one really knows who lives there. Some say a monster lives inside. Others say the master of the house angered fate long ago. But the truth is simple. No one truly knows. For many years, no one has entered the gates, until the night a man named Laurent lost everything. Laurent was a merchant, not a nobleman, but successful enough to give his 6 children a comfortable life. Ships sailed under his name. Warehouses near the harbor held spices and silk. Life felt safe, predictable. But fortunes can disappear, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. On an autumn afternoon, a letter arrived. Laurent read it once, then again, then a third time. Every ship he owned had been lost at sea. Storms. No cargo recovered, no money left. Within weeks, his life changed. The large house was sold. The carriage disappeared. The furniture followed. Soon, the family moved into a small cottage outside the village. The roof creaked in the wind. The garden grew potatoes instead of flowers. Laurent's older children struggled with this new life. They had once enjoyed comfort. Now they had chores. But the youngest daughter, Camille, adapted easily. She woke early each morning. She baked bread with the villagers. She learned how to grow herbs. She fed the chickens behind the cottage. Slowly, life became peaceful again. 2 years passed. Then, one afternoon, another letter arrived. One of Laurent's lost ships had returned, cargo intact. Excited voices filled the cottage. The older children spoke of fine clothes again, of returning to their old life. Laurent prepared to travel to the port city. Before leaving, he asked each child what gift they wanted. The daughters asked for dresses. The sons wanted new boots. Only Camille asked for something simple. She said, a rose. She had never seen one before, only drawings in books. Laurent smiled. A rose will be easy to find. But when Laurent reached the port city, his hope disappeared. Creditors had already taken the cargo, every crate, every coin. Ashamed and exhausted, he began the long ride home. Night fell quickly. Storm clouds gathered above the forest. Wind rushed through the trees. Rain began to fall. Lightning flashed across the sky. Thunder rolled through the woods. Suddenly, Laurent's horse bolted. Frightened by the storm, it rushed deep into the forest. Then, through the rain, he saw something ahead. Stone walls, tall, silent, and behind them a great house, the Chateau. The iron gate stood slightly open. Laurent pushed it wider. The path curved through wild gardens toward the enormous building. He tied his trembling horse beneath a stone arch. Then he climbed the steps to the door. Wind howled behind him. Rain fell harder. Laurent lifted the heavy iron knocker. He knocked once. The sound echoed through the house. No answer came. Slowly, he pushed the door open. Inside, the hall was dark and silent, but somewhere deeper inside the house, a fire was burning, and in the next room, a table had been prepared. Dinner for one person. Laurent stared at the warm fire, the bread, the meal waiting quietly on the table. Clearly, someone lived here, someone who had expected to eat dinner tonight. But the house was silent, completely silent. And suddenly, Laurent felt something strange. The quiet feeling that although he could see no one, someone, somewhere in the dark halls of the chateau, was already watching him.
Laurent stood quietly in the warm room. The fire crackled in the fireplace. Shadows moved slowly across the walls. The table was ready: bread, roasted meat, a glass of dark wine. But the house remained silent. No footsteps, no voices, no sign of the owner. Laurent hesitated. Entering someone's home without permission felt wrong, but the storm outside was fierce. The rain hammered against the windows. Wind howled through the trees. Slowly, he stepped closer to the table. The smell of warm food filled the room. His stomach growled softly. He had not eaten since morning. "Just a little," he whispered to himself. He took a small piece of bread, then another. Soon the warmth of the fire and the quiet comfort of the room softened his worries. Piece by piece, the meal disappeared. When he finished, he leaned back in the chair. The storm outside slowly faded. The fire glowed warmly beside him. Before long, sleep found him. Morning sunlight entered through the tall windows. Laurent woke slowly. For a moment, he did not remember where he was. Then the great silent room returned to his mind. The fire had burned low. The plate still rested on the table. But there was still no sign of the house's owner. Embarrassed, Laurent decided to leave quickly. He stepped into the large hallway. His footsteps echoed softly on the stone floor. Tall suits of armor stood along the walls. Dust floated quietly in the morning light. The house felt old, very old, as if it had been waiting for years. Laurent stepped outside. Fresh morning air greeted him. The storm had passed. Mist drifted slowly across the gardens. Birds sang in the distance. As he led his horse down the garden path, something caught his eye. A pergola stood near the center of the garden, wooden beams covered in climbing vines, and beneath it, a rose bush. Not an ordinary one. This bush held the most beautiful roses Laurent had ever seen. Soft pink petals, fresh morning dew, the flowers glowed gently in the sunlight. Suddenly, he remembered Camille's request, a rose. Laurent smiled. Perhaps the journey had not been completely hopeless after all. He stepped closer to the bush. Carefully, he cut one rose, then another. The petals were perfect, delicate, fragrant. "These will make her happy," he murmured. But as he turned away, a deep voice spoke behind him. "You have taken quite a lot from my house." Laurent froze. Slowly, very slowly, he turned around. Standing only a few steps away was a large man, tall, broad, his face partly hidden beneath thick dark hair. His eyes watched Laurent carefully, not angry, but not friendly either. "You entered my home without permission," the man said quietly. "You ate my dinner." Laurent opened his mouth to speak, but the man continued. "I allowed those things. But now," the man's eyes moved toward the roses in Laurent's hand, "you have taken the most precious flowers in this garden." Laurent lowered his gaze. "I am sorry," he said softly. "They were for my daughter." The man studied him in silence. Wind moved gently through the rose leaves. Birds sang beyond the garden wall. Finally, the man spoke again. "If you cannot repay what you have taken, then someone must stay here." Laurent looked up slowly. "Stay here?" he whispered. The man nodded once. "You, or someone from your family." The garden fell completely quiet. Laurent tightened his grip on the roses. His daughter's face appeared in his mind, Camille. And suddenly, the morning air felt very cold. Because Laurent knew someone would soon have to return to this silent chateau, and next time, it might not be him. Laurent rode home slowly. The roses rested gently in his hands. Their soft petals moved in the morning wind. But his heart felt heavy, very heavy. He had been given 1 week. 1 week to return to the chateau. Either he would go back, or someone from his family would take his place. When Laurent arrived at the cottage that evening, his children ran outside to greet him. They expected gifts, fine dresses, new boots, beautiful things from the city. Instead, Laurent quietly placed a single rose into Camille's hands. Camille smiled softly. The flower was more beautiful than she had imagined. Its petals were gentle. Its scent was sweet. But she quickly noticed something else. Her father's face looked troubled. very troubled. That night, Laurent told the whole story. The lost cargo, the mysterious chateau, the strange master who lived there, and the debt. Silence filled the small cottage. The older children said nothing. They looked down at the table. But Camille sat quietly, thinking. At last she spoke. "I will go." Laurent lifted his head immediately. "No," he said, but Camille shook her head gently. "You are needed here," she said softly. "You depend on you. And I can work." Within 2 days, Camille prepared for the journey. She packed only a few simple things: a dress, a small book, and the rose her father had brought her. She pressed the flower carefully between the pages of the book, a reminder of why she was going. The road to the chateau was quiet. The forest whispered softly in the wind. Leaves moved gently above the path. When they reached the iron gate, Laurent's hands trembled, but Camille stepped forward calmly. The door of the chateau slowly opened, and Camille entered. Life inside the chateau was not what she expected. There were no servants, no grand parties, no music in the halls. Only silence and books, many books. The master of the house introduced himself quietly. "My name is Antoine." His appearance was rough, his face partly hidden by thick hair, but his voice was calm, gentle. Days passed, then weeks. Camille cleaned the halls. She prepared simple meals. She opened the tall windows and allowed sunlight to enter forgotten rooms. Slowly, the silent chateau began to feel alive again. Each evening, Camille and Antoine shared dinner together. At first, they spoke very little, but slowly they began to talk about books, about the world, about life. Camille discovered something surprising. The man everyone feared was thoughtful, kind, and deeply lonely. One evening, Antoine finally told her the truth. Years ago, he had been proud, careless, cruel to those who needed help. One winter night, a poor woman came to his door asking for food. Antoine refused her. The woman cursed him. She said he would live as a monster until someone could see the humanity inside him. For many years, Antoine searched for the answer. He read thousands of books, philosophy, poetry, science, but the curse remained. Until Camille arrived. Because Camille never feared him, she never judged him, she simply treated him as a person. Spring slowly returned to the valley. Flowers bloomed again in the garden. Even the old rosebush began to blossom. One day, Camille returned briefly to her village, and during those days away, she realized something important. The chateau no longer felt like a prison. It felt like home. And Antoine felt like someone she truly cared about. When Camille finally spoke these words aloud, something extraordinary happened. The curse broke. Where the beast had once stood, now stood a man. His face calm, his eyes warm, the years of loneliness slowly fading away. Because the answer had never been hidden inside books, it had always been simple: human kindness. Camille and Antoine returned to the chateau.
The gardens bloomed again, the halls filled with warm light. And beneath the pergola, the roses grew more beautiful each year. One quiet summer evening, Antoine placed a ring on Camille's hand, the same ring that once belonged to his mother. Together, they began a new life in the house that had waited so patiently for them. The silent chateau was no longer silent. Because sometimes the greatest magic in the world is simply choosing to see the good in someone else. Sleep well and good night.